You're listening to the Things of That Nature podcast. Coming to you from a city that never sleeps is me, your host, Rockshana. I invite you to join me in truly honest, passionate, and fun talks that motivate, invigorate, and maybe inspire. Even though we're no longer in the mile high, the sky is still the limit. Everything and anything goes. So let's start talking about things of that nature. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Things of That Nature podcast. I'm your host, Rockshana, and today, again, I think I should just make this now the new theme of the show, because apparently I'm just drawing in a lot of authors, and I'm not mad at it. I like it. Today, we have another new friend of mine who is an author, Tom Fargnoli. So hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm great, Rockshana. Thank you for having me on your show. This is
Absolutely.
exciting.
Thanks for coming on. Like I said, I'm starting this new trend on accident, so we'll see how far I go with it. Now, you wrote a book. You're an author. Since I said it, we might as well start there.
Okay.
Why did you decide to write a book?
Well, it's kind of interesting. A lot of things happened to me. And my analyst, he said, you should start writing things down. And I did. So what started out to be kind of like a cathartic experience, just kind of freeing thoughts and getting things out. All of a sudden, I looked at it in a different light. And my wife said, this is amazing. I think if you put this together in a book, you can help a lot of people. I think a lot of people can relate to everything you've gone through and possibly get some insight and be inspired to go through what they're going through in their life. And so I called the book The Deacon, because I was a deacon at one point, An Unexpected Life. So again, all of these unexpected things that happened to me, some were tragic, I start just talking about. And I combined a little bit of creativity. It's my true story, but I put a drop of fiction in to make it interesting and moving to the reader. So it's me. I'm being interviewed by a local reporter. But then the local reporter, without giving out anything secret, turns out to be someone special. So I make it kind of interesting that way.
Oh, like a little twist to there. I like
Exactly.
it. So you said something that automatically perked my interest, just because my dad is kind of through that process. You said you were a deacon.
Correct. Now, when you say deacon, there's a couple different varieties, right? I was a deacon in the Catholic Church. So that took about 5.5 years of study.
Yeah.
And, a deacon is ordained as a minister. He helps the priest, and he also has his own ministry. He gets involved in various things. I was involved in the hospital ministry. So I would go to a hospital and just, talk to patients. And sometimes I would do magic for them, because they do have a background in magic, and try to lift their spirits a little bit. I would find out what's going on in their life, and then maybe do a little magic trick if it was appropriate. But just try to cheer them up. So that's how I kind of started with that ministry. But then I was involved with other ministries too, taking communion to the sick and to the shut-ins, and doing baptisms. It was a beautiful way to go into retirement. I was married for 40 years. I worked as an engineer for 40 some years, and I was a magician. My daughter and I did magic together. We did magic shows. So I combined all of them. I kind of, used magic when I was working, when I was teaching, and when I was doing ministry.
Wow. So out of all the things you did, big one being a deacon, author, magic, having all three, which one, do you have a favorite?
I think the favorite was really just doing all of them and integrating all of them together. I just loved, working with people, even though, engineering is, thought of as a technical field. My visual skills were actually better than my, math skills. So I was able to use those to really make some progress in that whole area of the system engineering. And then I end up teaching it across my company, Lockheed Martin, across the country, actually. So I would be teaching system engineering visual techniques, and I would use magic to do it. And so again, I always integrated all of those things. And now one thing with a deacon, with a Catholic deacon, is they take an oath in the beginning, and that is, if their wife, you can be married to be a deacon, you can't be married to be a priest. Right. But if your wife should pass, then you can't get remarried. You can't even have a relationship. Pretty much, you're celibate. You agree to be, like a priest would be at that point. Mm-hmm. And at first that wasn't a problem because who thinks of these things happening? And my wife was actually against the rule. She said, I don't like that rule. I said, well, why wouldn't you like it? I'll probably die before you anyway. That's what most guys think. But my wife did die, and rather suddenly and tragically. And so not only was I going through this grieving process that is pretty, tough to go through, mm-hmm. but what made it even more complex is, she took her own life, which made it even very, very difficult to, there's that big S word, is I hate to say it, but once you say that, the conversation's usually shut down. No one really wants to talk about it. So you kind of feel isolated. So, that was one of the major things that happened to me. It was more of a catalyst. Everything was going good. Like I said, all those things that I mentioned to you, I was doing. I planned my retirement. Excuse me. And now I'm grieving. And so, not that I wanted to run out and get remarried, but I knew that this rule, it made this grieving even more complex, knowing that I like being a deacon, but I'm only 63 at the time, and all I ever knew was a relationship. And so I just didn't know what to do. So two years of battle in my mind, just fighting in this battle, trying to make a decision. And so that turned out to be part of the beginning of the book, talking about that battle, talking about how I made my decision, and everything that resulted from it.
Wow. It sounds like it was a hard decision to make.
It was very hard. It actually put me in the hospital. I thought I was getting stomach pains, and I've always been in good shape. I had good blood pressure, never smoked, always worked out. But this decision actually put me in a hospital, and they looked at everything, and turned out I needed open heart surgery. So it was there in the hospital that in recuperating that I made my decision that no, I'm not cut out to be alone the rest of my life. And, I'm okay with being alone, but it was the loneliness that got to me. It's a difference, right? You can be alone, mm-hmm. but the loneliness, is like, I've always shared everything. I've shared my feelings. I built relationships, and not to have that, not to have a partner in life to go through, really got to me. And so in recuperating, well, actually, when I was recuperating, that's when I missed my wife the most. She would have been right there. That's when I made my decision. And unfortunately, with the decision came a lot of rejection. I was kind of rejected by the church. Started right from the beginning. They wouldn't even let me say my goodbyes. So, I was treated as if I left the church, but I never did. My faith is strong now as it was back then. So that rejection was almost like grieving all over again. So, it sounds pretty crazy when you think about it, losing your wife from suicide, going through open heart surgery, making this tough decision, being rejected. But through it all, I mean, the thing through it all was I maintained a faith. I maintained a relationship with God. And I write about it in the book. And that's where I started getting some letters from people that said, wow, you went through quite a lot, and I'm going through a lot too. And it's nice to see how someone can hold on to a faith. So I do a lot of that in the book. I do a lot of, and I reaching out to people that way. And I got a lot of letters, as I said, about, how it did help people. And so that motivated me to keep going.
All right. That's going through a lot in a process, and wow. That's pretty cool. Not cool, but
yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, it turned out to be good. I mean, I'm happy. I'm remarried. Obviously my decision went that way. And I still feel like I'm very close to God, and I still have that relationship with him. Without that, it would be hard. I couldn't have gone through all of these things. And just like any relationship, any good relationship, you have an open line of communication, two-way communication, and it's built on trust. And so that was really the basis of me getting through these things. And just like everyone has these tragedies sometimes in their life or hard parts of their life. And, if they just keep that little glimmer, sometimes all they need is a glimmer of light or a little hope. It gets them through it. So the book, as I go through it and explain this thing, I take the reader with me right into the hospital when I was a deacon, talking to people, into the formation. What was it like to go to school and to be a deacon? Into the ministry, and into the horror of the death, and into the battle, into the decision making, into the final decision, and eventually into the light and the peace that I'm in now. And so again, had the person that's interviewing me, it turns out to be someone pretty special.
That's cool. That's neat. It's neat that, a lot of people who believe in God, when something tragic happens or when they get rejected by people, they always avert to how can God let this happen? Or if those people that's the God I'm supposed to worship or follow, why would I be a part of that? But it sounds like that you are still full in faith. Your connection with God is still strong, and you haven't hindered away, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And, my wife, current wife, Dorothy, her husband died after 44 years of being married, also died very tragically, suddenly. And so when we met, it was kind of interesting. We helped each other, and we both are happy that we found someone that is like each of us, or we each have a relationship with God and with each other, and so it helps a lot. So I still call her Mary Ellen from time to time, and she calls me John. So and we understand everything. You're with someone for 40 years. It's hard to just change real quick.
Right. And when you said going through your 5 years in formation, I'm like, yeah, my dad's totally going through that right now.
Oh, he's going through that? Is he? Great.
Yes. I believe he has like one more semester left.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, that's brave. After his age in his 60s, going back to basically college.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the courses were pretty intense. They built four pillars of development. There was a lot of academics, of course, a lot of reading, but then there was also building relationships with people, building pastoral types of, how do you talk to people in the hospital, that kind of a thing. and how do you preach? The whole thing. I